Hi everyone, this is Sylvia from On Hamster Wheels. Today I'm very excited to have my first guest on my podcast, Daniel Prince. From what I know, Daniel is an author and a Bitcoiner and husband and father to three homeschoolers, 4 kids. And I was very lucky to meet him last month here in Madeira. I just want to welcome you, Daniel. Thank you so much for being here and being my first guest.
Thank you, Sylvia.
I'm going to read your book. It's on the way. But is there anything I've missed? Is there anything that you'd like to add to your description?
No, I guess, yeah, I think you've covered everything. We started kind of falling down the self-directed education rabbit hole in 2014 after living a very much hamster wheeled life up until that point. So happy to be here and spread the message as far and as wide as I can. And congratulations on starting this project. The more voices in this space, the better. And you've obviously felt that itch to step up and start interviewing people and provide some extra message and signal to this space and to families that are looking to break free from, the crippling education system in which they might find themselves trapped.
Yeah. Yes, thank you as well. So what was that like, this transition from the hamster wheel out? How long did it take? What kind of processes were going inside you and outside in your environment?
Oh, so much. I'd been in a career for 18 years up until that point in in financial markets. And we'd lived for 15 years in Singapore as expatriates, leaving London in 1999. So huge, total U-turn, a complete U-turn on life in general. 1 minute you're working in what's considered to be, in air quotes, a very highly paid, highly skilled professional arena. And then the next minute you're walking away from it, vowing never to go back and vowing to spend as much time with your wife and 4 children as possible. And a lot of people couldn't understand that decision. You face a lot of negativity from your closest friends and family because you're making such a huge decision. And that does come from a point of love and concern. But it is very draining on the people that are making the decision because they just feel completely misunderstood and untrusted. So what led us to that point, for me, it had just been building and building, sitting in that chair for so long. The business had changed, the environment had changed, the people had changed, and I just wasn't at all kind of happy, I suppose, is probably invested. I wasn't invested in what I was doing every day. And that's never a good place to be in life for anyone, for anything. Yeah. And then when I made that realization, I started looking for ways I could leave, but still maintain that high earning power, because I was still of the mindset that, I have to be earning as much money as I possibly can. This is life's goal, after all, to earn as much money as you possibly can. And I come across a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which helped turn my mind completely upside down. And this, again, that step alone was a very strange thing for me to do. I'd always read books. I liked reading. But I'd always shunned these kind of so-called self-help books. And, that those kind of chest beaters, like, you've got to get up in the morning and take an ice bath and do 10 press-ups and, you'll be set for the day and all of this kind of stuff. But a friend put me onto the book, and the book truly did change my way of thinking and truly did change our lives. The power of the book is very underrated. Most people still kind of like roll their eyes when I tell them this. But it did have such a huge impact. I read the book November 2013, and we were gone, sold up, and living a completely different life by March 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, 9 years ago now. It was 9 years ago to the day, 2 days ago, that we left Singapore, and we turned our life around. We turned our backs on a 15-year stint in Singapore. All the kids had been born there. They'd all gone to school there. We had our friend base there, extended family, basically, because you live so far away from home. You become very close with the people that you meet over there. And yeah, we were gone. That making those decisions was very difficult, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get stuck. We almost fell 6 or 7 times at the different barriers that were being put up in front of us, and the fears that were presenting themselves, very starkly right in front of you. Well, if we do this, what if? And then there's about 1,000 other what ifs that come behind that. But okay, then, well, let's just park this idea for another 2 to 5 years, and then we'll be in a better position, and the kids have more time at school. All of this kind of thought processes. And that's what my tactic was, just to keep reading the book every day. So when I got to the end of the page, when I got to the end of the book, the last page, I would literally just turn it over and start back at page 1 again at the introduction. I just knew that if I put the book down and walked away from it, the self-doubt would creep in, the monkey mind would start spinning like crazy, and we would back out of it. And then of course I had my wife, who hadn't read the book and was watching me go through this crazy kind of mind process. I think she's read the book by osmosis, because I just kept reading passages to her, like, and listen to this, and listen to this bit, and what about this bit? So yeah, that was my tactic, to keep my mind completely focused. And then we started finding people like Peter Gray, Sir Ken Robinson, other families that had exited the rat race. We found families that were traveling the world with their kids, that were blogging about it. Then we read a blog by a 13-year-old kid. Her name was Hannah Miller. She was 13 at the time. She's a grown woman now. And that blog just blew our mind. And I think it was titled, Why World Schooling Ruined My Life. We're like, okay. And it was a brilliantly titled clickbait article, because when she went through it, like the X amount of points, it was satire, and it was wonderfully written. And we're like, oh, wow, she's 13. Look at the life experience she's had. Look at the article she's just written. And that was truly inspiring for us. We'd love for our kids to be able to be brave enough to do that. But for that to happen, we have to put them in those experiences and those positions first. If they just sit there in a classroom all day, they're never going to have that. So there was lots of touch points that we found and lent on to help us make our ultimate decision to start traveling with the kids and start the unschooling process, the deprogramming, and the self-directed education.
There was a question that popped into my mind. Well, a quick rhetorical question. Do you regret doing this?
It's funny, because Claire said to me just 2 days ago, do you realize what day it is? And I stopped, and I'm like, it's the 8th of March. No, I definitely remembered my mum's birthday, and I called her. So that's all good. It's like, no, it was 9 years ago today that we left Singapore. And to your point about regrets, I remember the moment, the thing that clicked it all together for me was when we'd done all of this research, and I looked at Claire and I said, just imagine everything we've researched, all of the thought processes we've gone through, all of the sleepless nights, all of the projecting, all of the fears that might or might not come through over the last 2 or 3 months. if we don't do this now, in 10 years, we're going to look back and say, what if we did go on that round the world trip travel? And like, so here we are today, pretty much. I can't imagine how we would be feeling if we hadn't have gone.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, just that thought alone fills me with sadness because of the experiences we have had has just been so incredible in the way that we've all grown and the way that the kids have grown and the way that the kids are, turning out. Has been so much more enriching than me being sat at a desk, Claire just being, Uber taxi mum, and the kids just going through some kind of programming system. So nicely timed question on that one.
That was going to be my next question. Like, where do you think you would be, or what would your life look like if you hadn't done this?
I would be 20 kilos heavier because I lost them within the first year of leaving that seat. I would be personally I'd be a lot unhappier. I doubt I'd even have any kind of, I wouldn't have those riches in air quotes in the bank. I would never have understood the power of learning and the difference between learning and teaching. I would never have understood Bitcoin, the other area of my life, which I spend a lot of time researching and looking into. And I just think we would have been a lot unhappier, but ignorant. We would have probably been, well, ignorance is bliss, isn't it? So we'd just probably still be in that little bubble, running on the hamster wheel, falling into our respective dips in the sofa on a Friday night to watch Netflix and eat takeaway food, dreading Monday morning. That's probably where I would be.
Yeah. Wow. And how do you think your relationship with your family would be, to your kids and to your wife?
No, nothing like it is now. Just existing. I think that's the kind of, when I look back, we were just existing. I had my thing to do. Claire had her thing to do. We had expectations of the kids, so they had their things to do. And everybody just kind of like milled around each other. Everyone's running at 1,000 miles an hour. Everyone's got their own little entitlements. It's very sad to see kids come home from school and the first thing they do is walk in, drop their bags on the floor, go get some shitty snack out of the fridge and a sugary drink, ignore their parents, ignore anyone else around them, go straight onto their phone, do that for 30 to 45 minutes, and then start moaning about the homework they've got to do as they walk up into their bedroom and lock them in the bedroom for a couple of hours doing that. Wow. Like, that's no life, but that's generally how most families operate.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with someone the other day, and he said he doesn't have kids, but he was kind of telling me, you need to spank your children. Children need to be spanked. And he gave me all these beliefs, and if they start whining, then you need to do this and that. And it was in Portuguese, so I understood like 99%, but I didn't feel that my Portuguese was good enough to have a conversation. So I just listened and I didn't say anything. It was actually at BJJ, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he said, it's like in Jiu-Jitsu, like when you're here, you're going to be, if you do a mistake, then you're going to lose and you're going to feel some pain. And that's how you grow. And I was like, yeah, but that's my choice. I choose to go to classes because I enjoy it. And I don't want anybody to let me win. I don't want them to be easier and go easier on me. I'm okay with losing. It's a competition and I want this, but it's because it's my choice and I grow because, because of all this. But kids are being, I like in my mind afterwards, I compared this, kids don't choose to go to school and do all of this to themselves. It's the parents and at school, it's the teachers and like everybody's doing something to the kids and they have like next to zero choice and like which adults do that to themselves if they don't question it. They just go, okay, I have to get up at, I don't know, 6 a.m. even though my body needs 2 more hours of sleep. I need to go to work now and I need to listen to my boss. I need to get this done on time. And yes, they do that to themselves because they've never questioned it. And it's just mind-blowing that there's so many people out there who don't realize this and who think it's normal, like the Monday morning thing.
Yep.
I once, like 10 years ago, I posted something on Facebook, like, if you hate Monday mornings, why don't you change something? Why don't you get another job or do something that you really enjoy? And this one friend of mine, she got really offended and she said, but I don't like you saying here that you can choose to do this and that because you have that lifestyle. But this is just part of it. It is kind of fun, she said, to moan about this. It's like every Sunday, these people would post, oh my gosh, it's Monday tomorrow, and all those memes Monday morning. And people think they have no choice. They think it's not in their hands. And of course, there are lots of things that are out of one's control, but there are many things that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I called the book Choose Life. This kind of conversation with people, because, you know, we decided to travel as far and as wide as we could for like 6 months. Maybe we'd make it 9 months if we could. And we'd looked at, like, you know, how are we going to budget for this? Because by now, like, zero income and living on savings. So okay, well, let's do that. And then I'll probably end up getting another job somewhere. You know, there'll be something. And then that become 9 months, and then become a year and a half. And we just kept extending it. And you know, people would say to me, well, this is all very well, but when are you going to come back to real life? And that to me was like a light bulb went off. Huh? Oh, that's what you think real life is? Because what I've been living for the last year has felt about as real as I've ever felt ever, because I'm living on my terms. And we would spend the amount of times we would wake up like, what day is it? Like, we had no idea what day it was. Like, not what date, but what day. Is it a Monday? Is it a Wednesday? We had no clue, because we had chosen to be free. Basically, that was our first real introduction to freedom. We were permanent tourists, because we were moving countries at very, very quick rates, and moving houses within those countries. In Australia, for example, New Zealand, we were in for 3 months, but we were moving every week to 10 days. So we got to see a hell of a lot of New Zealand. So no one knew where you were. No one was chasing you. There was no school commitments. There were no work commitments. There was no, wider societal construct commitments. It was just you and what you wanted to do that day, and what experiences you wanted to, layer on for, like, the educational kind of journey that we were taking the kids on and ourselves. And that could range from anything to visiting the park to a museum, or wherever we were. It didn't matter. A beach, go on long walks. We had no clue. It was the most freeing feeling of realizing, man, I used to live my life by the clock, by the date, by the minute, and dreading all of it. It's just so burdensome
Yeah.
on somebody's spirit.
Yeah. You mentioned you don't know what day it was, because there was another question I had in mind for you. How do your weekends look compared to the days in the week?
Yeah. When we were traveling, or now?
Now.
Now, right, okay. Yeah, so now we've been so we traveled between 2014 to almost 2017, like midway through the back end of 2016. So after 2.5 years, we just needed to take a rest. We couldn't keep bouncing around. Everybody was getting very my wife was getting very sick and tired of packing 4 or 5 bags and God
Oh.
knows else. And yeah, every 10 days on average, that weighs you down. So we had found a house sit in France, and we'd sat still for about 2 months over the summer period, in the Corrèze region in France, which is kind of like central. And we had a great time. And we were taking stock of, well, what are we going to do for the next year or so? And we knew, well, we like sat down, what would be the ultimate gift that we could give to our children if we could just wave a magic wand? What would we give them? And it was the ability to speak another language was number one, without a doubt, for both of us. We come to that decision independently. Well, okay, well, there's a signal. Then we've got to follow up on that. So we can just put them in the way of French. Let's rent somewhere here for longer. So we found a long-term rental, and to immerse them, we actually put them into a school, into the local school. We were in a hamlet, and this school was crying out for kids, because in France, the way it works, if you don't have enough headcount, then they just close the school.
Wow.
So this British family turns up in this hamlet in the middle of nowhere, beautiful, like beautiful valleys, and it's paradise. And we turn up to speak to the headmistress. We had zero French, and like they had very, very limited English, but we cobbled it all together, and we helped them realize that we want them to, come and test the school for a few months to see what it's like. Like, yep, where do you sign up? It was the quickest piece of paperwork I've ever done in my life, especially in France. But yep, bang, 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 4 students. Thank you very much. Because that just kept their doors open for the local community, just having the head count.
Yeah.
And they really enjoyed that. And we were lucky enough that it was a Montessori style school. They were experimenting a little bit, going against kind of the mainstream. So that was great. They got the immersion that they needed. So that was a weird switch. To come back to your original question, that was, oh my God, going back to kind of a schedule. I remember having a real awful rising kind of that sick feeling in your stomach when we dropped them off that first morning, on the Monday morning. Really didn't like it, because I could feel myself being pulled back into a system, having experienced freedom for 2.5 years. And we got home, and it was deathly silent, and we just looked at each other. What are we gonna do? Like,
Wow.
what, like, I don't know, do the hoovering or something? Like, we had been so used to being occupied by 1,000 questions every minute. You know what it's like, being pulled in different directions. This has just been broken. This needs fixing. This needs tending to. This one needs running over here. Whatever. Let's go out. Let's find something to do. So that was a really weird situation to be in. So fast forward, we've been in France now for 6 years. 3 of them are back out of the system. They don't use the system. We got French from the system. That's exactly what we needed. They can all speak fluent French. My oldest one enjoyed it, and she's sitting her A-level equivalent, I suppose. Now it's called the bac in French. And she'll be done with that in June, and then she's going to take a year out and do some work experience and travel and things. So we have a mix of what our life looks like, because Claire and I, we still have to get our oldest into some kind of schedule so she can be at her college. Whereas the other three are using a self-directed education platform called Kubrio, which is a Kubrio, and they're at home the whole time, and they're just logging in and out of Zoom calls with the different clubs that they've joined. So they've got their own little schedules going on,
Yeah.
and they've, it's up to them to look after that. We obviously help and get in the way when we need to. So sometimes we might be sitting there just having a coffee together and looking out the window, and we got kids all over different parts of their house, but one's doing a history club and one's doing a debate club, and our 15-year-old at the moment is doing GCSE studies, so she might be on a science lesson, and we're like, wow, okay, this actually works, and they've got
Yeah.
agency over what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they feel invested in it, and it's great. I love it. It's not like we spend 24 hours a day with them, and it's not like, we're sitting down with them and, cracking the whip and saying, we've got to do the
Mhm.
math, get the books out. There is a little bit of that from time to time when we feel that they need that extra guidance. But otherwise, it's been a huge step back from that role of teacher, authoritar, dictator, uh, to putting more trust in the idea that the kids are going to be learning whether or not you're there, and they are going to be learning far deeper and quickly, far, at a much better speed pace, if they are invested in what they're doing.
Mhm.
Comes back to what you said earlier about choice. If they had no choice, if we were forcing them to do stuff, it would just be a waste of everybody's time, be a waste
Yeah.
of their time, the teacher's time, and our time and energy and money. So yeah, here we are today at a weekend. My son is off with, he's been sleeping at a friend's house. They were going to play football today, they play for the same team. Um, uh, Lauren's upstairs. I think she's writing a story. She's been inspired to start writing a story. I think Sophia's helping mummy do the washing up. Um, I don't want to paint a pretty picture of like life's all rosy, then we still have huge family fights like anybody else,
Yeah.
and breakdowns and tantrums. And my 17-year-old is asleep, of course, because it's Saturday and she doesn't need to be at school, and she's not having her bodily rhythms interrupted, so she
Yeah.
can actually rest.
You know what's funny? Last night I woke up and then I started thinking about our podcast,
Mhm.
and then I started worrying, oh no, I'll be thinking about this the whole time. I won't be able to sleep. But pretty quickly I fell back to sleep. And then I dreamt about the podcast, but I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Lauren. I was interviewing her. And when I woke up, I had the idea, why not interview Lauren at some point, and other
Yep.
homeschoolers and unschoolers. So, because like you said, you've written a book and you're out there writing, and it's cool that I'm another person spreading the word. Like parents are fearful for their kids' future and for their own sanity, I suppose. But if they see that there are amazing human beings like your kids, because I've met them, who've been homeschooled for years, and I mean, I feel bad about comparing, but your kids are so different to teenagers their age who go to school. Like I enjoyed the conversations. I remember when I was a teenager, I didn't want anything to do with my parents or their friends. I wasn't sitting there with them and having conversations, and we had you over for dinner, and it was so nice. We were playing, we were chatting, we were discussing, and it just makes such a big difference if a person is happy and feels in charge of their decisions of their life,
Mhm.
like your children. And yeah, if you want to ask Lauren if I can interview her another
Oh,
day.
she would love to. Yeah, you can do another episode with her at some point. Yeah, she'd love to, tell you all about it, how it works, and how she feels.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that. But there's a reason that homeschooled kids are like that. It's because they do not have that programming. And this,
Yeah.
we've all come to this realization when you meet homeschooled kids, or unschooled kids, world schooled kids, whatever, flavor of the deprogramming process that people are going through. You, you, and I remember the first time I had it, I was blown away. Oh my God, I want my kids to be like this kid, because you, the kid in question must have been 12 or 13, came right up to me, stood in front of me, presented herself, looked me in the eyes, shook my hand, and then we had a conversation. That blew me away. I'm like, right, okay, I'm in. I want this for my kids, because, and the reason that the difference is like that is because in a school setting, and from a very early age, depending on which country you live in, it could be from the age of 3, 4, or 5 that kids are sent to school. It's compulsory as well in many different countries. They go into the environment where the adult in the room is the authority, and the adult in the room is there to make sure that you are going to behave in a certain manner, and you have to pay respect to them, and you have no choice, and you better just darn well sit down, shut up, and not interrupt and not disrupt the class. Forget having a conversation with them. So therefore, a young child, within weeks of doing that, will start looking at all adults as the authority in the room. And this trickles into the family, because how many times did you growing up have the aunties and uncles visit, the nannies and granddads visit, whatever, and auntie would come in and say, "Oh, hey Sylvia, how are you?" "Yes, I'm good, thank you." "What year are you in school to?" "Oh, I'm in year 7." "Okay, and what do you want to be when you grow up?" "Oh, ballet dancer." "Okay, run along then." That was it. That was your level of conversation with your aunt,
Yeah.
like with your mum's sister.
Yeah.
And that's it. Even maybe to this day for some people, because she represented the adult in the room, which represented authority, because you'd been brainwashed into behave in a certain way when an adult is in the room. You turn that on its head with homeschooled kids, and you get the complete opposite. You get the experience that you had with my kids and other homeschooled kids, who see you as an equal, who see you as somebody to have a conversation with, somebody to learn from, somebody
Yes.
to bounce ideas off of, somebody to share experiences with. That's real life. That's life, like not the other way. The other way is engineered, and really sick, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah. I think this is a beautiful ending for our podcast. I couldn't have said it in a better, nicer way. And thank you so much, Daniel. This was an amazing
You're welcome.
conversation and very insightful. I hope many people are going to listen to this, and I'm going to maybe, I just had the idea, have a interview like an adult, an expert like you, someone with lots of experience, and then the next time a homeschool child, so that people realize how amazing this is and how much better and healthier for everyone, for really everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It is healthier for everybody, and you will grow in ways that you would never have expected. So, for anybody listening that's thinking about doing it, uh, of course, do your own research. Try and reach out to those people that are in your same situation, because there are so many of us out here now. Try and find that family that most resembles yours, in size, in age, so you can reach out and really get down into the weeds and find out, is it possible? Because that's the first question. Is it possible? And then start deschooling yourself, because it's difficult when you make that first jump. You have to deprogram yourself, because we've all been through the system. So work on yourself first, and then that would be the easiest route into taking this decision. And good luck, everybody. Thank you for starting this podcast, and it's been a privilege to come on.
Thank you for that advice as well, everyone. Thank you, Daniel, and
you're welcome.
I'll get in touch to speak to Lauren later.
Of course. Take care, Sylvia.
You too. Bye, Daniel. Okay, that went well. I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but I'm happy with the overall outcome. I hope you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel on YouTube and Spotify to know more about this topic. I'll be interviewing lots of experts, unschooled, homeschooled, world schooled children and kids, authors, and lots of different people who have or are exiting the hamster wheel or have done this, aka unhamster wheeled. Thanks again for listening, and see you soon.